This video is going to be titled Laws of Sovereignty, and what this is about is people like ourselves actually rewriting the laws of existence and getting to the most important matters of the heart and where it all goes from there. Because if you have certain laws in place, it doesn't matter what kind of royalty you are. It doesn't matter how high up you are. And when I say high up, and yes, I am talking about a hierarchical sense, that means that is just simply based on the experience of a being, everything that they've been through, everything that they've ever seen, witnessed, experienced, been, and the like. So given that there are those of us who do have a lot more experience than others, I think that there should remain a spiritual hierarchy of sorts until those other beings have taken it upon themselves to at least have either similar or correlating experiences that would put them on the same level of understanding and comprehension as those who are perceived as above them. And when I say above them, I am not talking about inner worth. I am not talking about eternal value. I am simply speaking of experience. Much like a council would only allow certain members to be a part of what they do. So let's begin. This is what I wrote down the other day. This just came to me while I was alone, and it was nearly effortless, although I had to make sure I was able to catch up to all of it with my writing. So this is how it starts. We should be able to move beyond any past versions of ourselves with the sovereignty and perspective of a master, meaning somebody who has mastered and implemented all of the perspectives that they have obtained, all of the lessons that they've learned throughout that incarnation, that state of being, or that version of themselves. Moving on. Simply choosing to block off the negative frame of mind used at the time of its experience to navigate dark territory. Meanwhile, still being able to fully utilize the benefits of all its hard-learned lessons. And what that next line means is being able to break free of that past version of yourself. Let's say that you lived a lifetime where you were sort of a barbarian. Or maybe you got into something like witchcraft and it went a little too far. And in a sense, you became a bad person. You violated the moral code of conduct that governs all things. You lost yourself in the process. Maybe not fully, but you fell. Maybe you did it in this life. Maybe you really fucked up. Maybe you made mistakes. You treated somebody poorly who didn't deserve to be treated that way. You tried to control another being and determine how they think, how they act, how they feel, and what they do. And you're remorseful, which is a major step of progress to me. I mean, because from there you can decide, like, you know what, I don't have to continue going this route. I can make a full turnaround with the lessons that I've learned from that experience. Like I said, in the writing I have simply choosing to block off the negative frame of mind used at the time of its experience to navigate dark territory, meaning you were in dark territory. You were literally behind enemy lines, so you maybe had to do things out of your own necessity, out of your own need for survival. In a sense, it's highly possible, if not what's happening, to actually experience a truly evil version of yourself, to have that experience so that you can have a full understanding of good and evil. And if you believe in God, if you believe in a truly perfect God who maybe didn't create this, but perhaps created you or created whatever realm you were originally from, and they allowed you as a sovereign being, respecting your sovereignty, a good mother, a good father, knowing that you'd never get truly lost, but letting you go and experience all the pleasures of, things like lust, deceit. Maybe in one life you were somebody who murdered people and took their money or whatever you did. That's why I say, meanwhile, still being able to fully utilize the benefits of all its hard-learned lessons. So that could mean that even if you were a criminal, even if you were a bank robber, even if you were a dirty, rotten scoundrel, you still learned skills and ways of navigation. You learned how the enemy works by becoming the enemy, being able to take every single one of those lessons and positive attributes and apply them to your being. Meanwhile, also being able to negate and, in a sense, delete or at least block off the negative attachments that you formed, meaning you are no longer that evil scumbag. You don't have to feel depression or remorse over that because you've moved past it. You've had a change of heart and you've proven it. Moving on further, the next line says, and then I'm going to read this whole thing so it can be fully understood, but the next line says, this also includes, but is not limited to, being able to assume that state entirely upon willful recall, if one so chooses, meaning that you can actually go back to exactly how you felt during that experience, even if it was negative, if you choose to. And in a way, through your own being, be able to relive that experience and recall it completely. Meaning it will not be fully removed from you if you don't want it to be. But if you choose for it to be, you can block off all the negative connotations that are attached. What I'm describing here is sovereignty, when all is said and done. The last line, this is the longest part. And I have to rework some of this and change the wording a little bit so that way there's no loopholes. This should be in the real Bible, in my opinion. This should be in the real book of law. This should just be one of the sections, in case there's any questions. Sovereignty should actually be very simple. All right, so here we go. Here's the last line. They must finally be able to determine who they wish to be at all times, yet never having to sacrifice the benefits or attributes by way of limitation of another form. In doing so, they may choose to forget the experience that created that version of them, keeping all of its benefits, or basically being able to remember it at any time entirely. So that kind of sums up and re-explains everything that I just said prior, in case there's any unclarity about what I've written here. So let me go ahead and just read this full thing. It's titled Laws of Sovereignty. I'm going to read it all the way through without any commentary. We should be able to move beyond any past versions of ourselves with the sovereignty and perspective of a master, simply choosing to block off the negative frame of mind used at the time of its experience to navigate dark territory, meanwhile still being able to fully utilize the benefits of all its hard-learned lessons. This also includes, but is not limited to, being able to assume that state entirely upon willful recall, if one so chooses. They must finally be able to determine who they wish to be at all times, yet never having to sacrifice the benefits or attributes by way of limitation of another form. In doing so, they may choose to forget the experience that created that version of them, keeping all of its benefits, or remember it at any time entirely. I got to reword that last part a little bit, but that's the gist of it. So I wanted to share because I want to remind people to never underestimate what's going on here and never underestimate yourself and your place, your part in all of this, and also never underestimate what we're doing here and now. Because if you wanted to find over time through experience the ultimate way to exist, the perfect forever, you would have to go through all the experiences and experience every problem. Maybe not every individual experiencing every problem, but every individual involved would have to sort of work out all the bugs in the system, all the glitches, everything that could possibly be or go wrong, and also find out through experience exactly what to do to correct all of those problems going forward. Meaning you have actually lived it. All of us collectively have lived through every single negative aspect of existence that involves suffering. And as such, my stomach's growling. I haven't even eaten yet today. So I gotta get to that right after this. But with all of that said, having the knowledge and the wisdom to move forward and move beyond all of that. Even if you look at what's going on online, look at the internet as one mega platform that was set up to expose and reveal who everyone truly is, because that's exactly what it did. Because you are able to remain anonymous if you so choose. You now have the ability to be who you really are, but other people don't know who you really are. They don't know your true identity. So what that does, like now imagine being a group that's observing. They know your exact identity. You might think they're evil because they're technically spying on everybody. And yes, there's some truth to that, but this is a world of evil and this is a world of suffering. But let's say there's other groups that actually are trying to figure all of this out. They are, you could call them higher level. Maybe they are beyond government, or maybe they have their own government. And so they're keeping tabs on everybody. Let's look at them as actually being a good force. They have to know who is capable of true existence, who is capable of existing in a truly harmonious way. So let's say that a simulation is created where everything that could possibly go wrong, according to Murphy's Law, does go wrong. In that darkness is what reveals the light within everyone. Your light is revealed in the darkness. If everything is perfect light, then how are you going to know who's who? If it's just perfect all the time. Then when somebody says, I love you, and I would, go to the moon and back for you, I would do anything for you, I'd do this for you, I'd do that for you, I'd sacrifice, blah, blah, blah. But yet, there's no need for any of that. How would you ever believe them? So, by creating a simulation, or rather virtual reality, within an already, in my opinion, virtual reality, or something of that sort, you gain the ability to be able to see who everyone really is. When they think nobody's watching, when they think it doesn't matter, you see exactly how people treat others. You see the morality when they think they can get away with it with no consequences, because that's what tells you everything about somebody. When somebody treats somebody else right, just for the sake of doing that with no reward, no recognition, no reward, just simply doesn't want to do a disservice to another human being. That says a lot about that person. And when somebody, through anonymous cowardice, which is everywhere, chooses, through a willful choice, an act of decision-making, to inflict harm upon somebody else, even if only psychologically, they are violating the laws of sovereignty, and they are proving that they don't respect those laws. So like I said in the beginning, king, queen, doesn't matter what your position. We all need, and I'd say must, abide by this law. It is above all of us. Every single one of us. And if you want to bring God into this, I would say the law is even above God. And it has to be that way, meaning God has to listen to this law. Because sovereignty cannot be violated. Freedom cannot be taken away, or else we don't have a true existence, worthy of existing within. So this law must exist, and of course have many different explanations throughout to cover every nook and cranny, to cover up every possible loophole, or at least to prevent every possible loophole that, some evil scumbag could try to exploit, and which they will, they can and they will. So why would you not be extremely careful and be extremely specific and just say, bam, done, These are all of our stories, all of our accounts, all of our perspectives. This is what existence must be. We finally have the ultimate way, the perfect way to exist eternally, and even create a way for a being who doesn't want to be a part of that to be able to destroy themselves. Not in a harmful way, but simply be erased if they don't, for some reason or another, don't want to be a part of that. Because that shouldn't be taken away from somebody either, or else that is not sovereignty. So please feel free to leave your opinions, but I'm going to ask that you be respectful and prove that you understand what I'm saying. How do you know that we are not only creating but also rewriting these laws as we speak? Because in my opinion, this is one of the things that we're doing here. And people are proving whether or not they can respect this ultimate law that should govern all things, meaning it governs it in a sovereign way, not a tyrannical way. Meaning because of this, we will have true freedom without any worry of ever having harm done to us ever again, or ever experiencing suffering, basically destroying suffering forever and ever. Amen.